And welcome to the Planet X podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike.
And as we've kind of been doing the past couple weeks, we've got some sad news to start off with. But we'll get into some better stuff after that. We lost in the past less than 7 days. I'm going to say we lost two pretty big names. We lost Alan Rickman last Wednesday and Glenn Fry from the Eagles today. So whoever's in charge of celebrity deaths in 2016, enough. give us some breathing room here.
Yeah, we want to do some happy upbeats, just like that Casey Kasem outtake.
Yeah,
I gotta come out of an upbeat number and do a goddamn death dedication for a dog.
Yep, pretty much.
The Alan Rickman thing was, there were a lot of great tributes I saw online for him. And he's a guy that kind of had a long enough career that everybody knows him from something and something big, you'd see things like, oh, Alan Rickman of Harry Potter fame, and that's geared towards one generation. And then you have Alan Rickman from Die Hard, and then all the other stuff in between. It was big. There was a great New Yorker comic that had John McClane and Harry Potter sitting at a bar, toasting each other to "You can never have a better antagonist."
No, and that's really the case. He in that role, he excelled in that role.
Oh, Alan Rickman was great at being in a movie and just kind of being pissed off at people. He was pissed off at John McClane. He was always pissed at Harry Potter. He was pissed at Tim Allen in Galaxy Quest. He was pissed at Jay and Silent Bob and Dogma. He
was pissed at Kevin Costner
in Robin Hood. And that's from in that point of, how there's movies that are like chick flicks, those romantic comedies where the girl finds the guy, they have they fall in love, they have a disagreement, they fall out of love, and then they get back in love again. And then the guy version of those movies is always a little different. And one of the guy's version of a romantic movie is Die Hard, because here's a guy and his wife gets held hostage. He's got to go shoot up a building of international terrorists and save his wife.
Yeah,
swinging through a window and walk through broken glass and all that. And Robin Hood was kind of the same thing. There's a guy that had to go save his wife or his girlfriend or whatever from Alan Rickman again, and he swings in through a window in that too to save it from Alan Rickman. So Alan Rickman was great at being that.
Harry Potter. Now the real question is, did Harry Potter swing through a window?
I'm sure he might have at some point. He at least flew through a window. And it was with him too. It was like genius casting for the evolution of that character in Harry Potter, because you expected him to be the villain. And when the series was all said and done, he was kind of quietly the hero.
Yeah.
And it was he was that outsider kid that grew up and kind of stayed good, even though everybody, acted like a bad guy, I guess.
Yeah.
In the evolution of that character. But Rickman just added, he was perfect as the depressed robot in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
His voice just... You with all those memes that you saw of Alan Rickman, you read it all in his voice. And
he really kind of did.
Aside from the New Yorker cartoon, one of my favorite ones that I saw was Rickman. I think he was in a Snape outfit, but he was standing there with that like indignant, snotty British guy look, and it said, "I will be attending a very exclusive David Bowie concert, and you will not."
True.
And it was just, he just good in everything.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen him and I mean, you kind of get to that point where, you know, an actor or whatever passes away and you kind of, oh, I've never really seen him in anything I didn't like him in. And he's one I can honestly say that I don't think I've ever seen in a movie of his he was in that I didn't like.
You know, he has some more arts films and stuff, things that you'd be, you know, less likely to catch. I'm a lot of stuff I'm not that familiar with. He did that British romantic comedy, Love Actually.
I was gonna say he was in Love Actually,
where they had like every British actor in it.
Yes,
even Rick
I was gonna say including everybody's favorite zombie killer, Rick Grimes. Yes,
when he was still British.
Yeah, everybody on that damn show is British, so.
You know, and they had just recently done around Christmas the Honest Trailer guys on YouTube had done Die Hard. They did an Honest Trailer for Die Hard, and it was the most loving goof on Die Hard. You know, they weren't even really like shitting. They said they're like, it's Die Hard. We're not going to shit on it. This movie's awesome. And one of the things that they pull up. And they're like Alan Rickman and they kind of scroll down his IMDb, and it's like in his first movie. Way to hit it out of the park, Rickman.
Yeah, right.
It was
he really that Hans Gruber character is probably one of my favorite like action movie villains in a way because he wasn't really. All he was a thief. It wasn't like
it was that twist. He wasn't trying to take over the world. He didn't have a political message. He kind of lied about the political message. It was the perfect 80s movie villain.
Yeah.
That all he wanted was the money.
Yeah.
And that Die Hard movie changed the whole way they started making action movies that was one of the things they said in the Honest Trailers. They're like, you know, you had action movies were filled with these roid monsters fighting somebody, and then you had Die Hard where you had John McClane who just looked like your dad.
Yeah. Yeah. He was, you know, he was it was kind of that everyman. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't Schwarzenegger, he wasn't Stallone, he wasn't, you know.
And for that movie to be, you know, he was such a good villain in it because when he shoots the Mr. Nakatomi.
I forget.
And when he shoots the Coke guy.
Yeah, Ellis.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, this guy's a scumbag. But then there's like other little things. He's charming in his own like sense. And he's even like, he's annoyed with everything. He's annoyed with his own guys.
Yeah. Which is what makes that what makes that character great.
Yeah, just when he's like, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the FBI. You know, just delivery of just like, oh, what a prick. You know, he's got it all worked out. And the character is so good that the third Die Hard movie that's about taking revenge on John McClane, or partly about taking revenge on John McClane for killing Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rickman's going to be missed. You know, obviously he's going to be missed. That sounds sappy and stupid to say something like that. But you're like, this guy was awesome in so much stuff.
Yeah, he really was.
You know, the Kevin Smith reiterated that story that I've heard him tell before about when they were shooting Dogma, and he kind of sat Jay down and he's like, we got real actors on this one now. No fucking around, no being stupid. Because Alan Rickman is here. It's a real deal. Dude from Die Hard. You can't be fucking around. And Jay got so like, he's like, all right, I'm working with this real deal British actor. He's always mean and everything. And he memorized the whole script.
Yeah, not just his lines, everybody's lines.
Because he was scared of Hans Gruber.
He was scared of Alan Rickman. Yeah. Which it's really, says something as a whole for that character. Now, not necessarily the actor, but the character.
Yes. Now, the other thing, the other death that we're talking about that happened was Glenn Frey of Eagles fame. And also, which movie did Glenn Frey write the music for? He did.
I don't know if he wrote the music for, but he did. The Heat Is On for Beverly Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop. That's what I meant. Yeah.
He did. He did a song for Ghostbusters 2. He did a song for the Miami Vice soundtrack. He did
a handful of
a lot of his singles that we know were in movies and whatnot. I am not an Eagles fan by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, that's just because you're a big Lebowski fan.
Yeah, that's got something to do with it. But I'm not really an Eagles fan.
That's the Eagles are like that with people. There's people that like the Eagles and there's people that hate the Eagles. And I am of two minds with the Eagles. Like, I have the Eagles greatest hits. I think I have an Eagles double album greatest hits or something like that. And sometimes I hear those songs, I'm like, this is such a great song. I love this. And sometimes I hear it and I'm just like, oh, if I never fucking hear this song again the rest of my life, I won't mind.
Yeah.
I have to be in the right mood to listen to the Eagles. And some of those songs are the songs that are just on the radio nonstop. And you're like, if I don't hear Peaceful Easy Feeling ever again, I'm not going to.
It would be too. Yeah, if I ever, it'd be too soon. But yeah, I liked a lot of his. I liked a lot of his solo work more than I like the Eagles stuff. Same thing with Don Henley, where it's like I like a lot of Don Henley's solo stuff as opposed to the Eagles stuff, which I know makes absolutely no fucking sense. But
I think it makes sense. It kind of in our wheelhouse of in our youth, the 80s when those singles were coming out, is when that stuff was clicking with us. That's so many people who were from who were listening to their music in the 60s and the 70s. I've heard a lot of people that are like, oh, all these bands we loved, they started doing shitty music in the 80s, but we're like, oh yeah, we love those 80s songs from those guys because, and I'm sure if somebody we listened to, like even last week when we were talking about Metallica, and Metallica changed their sound and we were disappointed in it. That's there's a whole generation of people that were like that with the guys from the Eagles and with the guys from a lot of bands. From back then, Clapton, Rod Stewart, they all kind of got 80s-ized. Some of them came back, some of them didn't. I'm looking at you, Rod Stewart. And, with us, we don't hate it, but there's people that are music snobs and there's people that are from that earlier generation that are going to pick it out and be like, oh, this is crap. But The Heat Is On, I could listen to every day of my life.
Yeah.
And I was just talking over the weekend about Glenn Frey with a friend of mine.
You killed Glenn Frey.
I killed Glenn Frey. I swear to God, every time I talk about some celebrity that I haven't thought about in forever, they die. And we were talking about Glenn Frey because he had watched something about the documentary, I guess. I don't remember. No, he read a book, I think is what it was. He read a book about the Eagles. And he said that Glenn Frey was apparently a giant asshole. Like one of the reasons why the Eagles broke up. I think it seems like they were all like a little bit like Don Henley was an asshole. Glenn Frey was an asshole. Joe Walsh just didn't give a shit. He's Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh. To give a shit. He's Joe Walsh.
Yeah, fucking. Yeah, I'll be more upset when Joe Walsh dies, I think, than I will Glenn Frey.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's still, it was one of those, it was kind of a surprise and just held on in the past, 3-4 weeks now where we've just lost. And I don't know if in any recent memory, if I've seen names like this.
A chunk of big names musicians dying like that. 3 really big name musicians. And then to have a big name actor all go in that time period, and they weren't really old. 3 of them were cancer. I don't know how Glenn Frey. I'm sure he was.
I know he wasn't he from what I understand, he was having a little bit of health issues, but I don't really know. And that's kind of how it's been with all of these guys. Like, we didn't really know much that they were having these health issues.
But
where they kind of kept it in-house, which, in the day of, TMZ and, assholes doing internet, it's kind of hard. Yeah. It's kind of hard to keep that shit under wraps. But
yeah.
We lost. Bowie, Lemmy, and Rickman all had cancer.
And I think we're entering that point now where, for people, when they make it through a certain age without OD, especially musicians, if they can make it through without ODing or dying in a bus accident or a plane accident or those things that have notoriously taken out musicians. Now a lot of these guys that have gotten cleaner and sober or dodged those bullets are going to hit this point where they're going to be dealing with health problems and getting older. And I think, honestly, we're going to see them dropping more and more like flies. We only have so much more time of Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger. We're only going to have so much more time of a lot of these rock stars. They're just at that point.
Yeah. And, and we're, the two of us are kind of at that age too, where it's like, a lot of the people that we listened to growing up or watched in movies growing up are now later on in life as well. But as I said, I just can't remember a time in recent memory where, it's like every week it's been a name. It hasn't just been like, so-and-so that was in this movie passed. It's like, so-and-so that was in this band passed. It's names the past month.
I don't remember if I said this when we were talking about Lemmy dying, but I had heard an interview with Ozzy Osbourne, and he was close with Lemmy, and Lemmy wrote a lot of songs for him, and he talked about just losing friends, at this point in life. And with Ozzy, with all the shit that he's gone through, and for Ozzy to still be around and be in his mid to late 60s now and still be up and kicking, I almost feel like Ozzy, you got to feel bad for him. Like, he's this quasi-immortal, nothing can kill Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
And all his friends die around him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could hear in a lot of the people that we're talking about, the people that knew these people or people that were just fans of these people, other creative people that didn't, knew them in passing or knew them as being a fan, just the emotion and the how important so many of these people that died were to so many people at so many different levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to look for the brighter side of things on this, not that there's a bright side of people dying, but the positive, I guess, aspect of it is it gets it out there a little bit more. So if people start talking about it and it's getting out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, and younger kids get to discover Motorhead and Die Hard and David Bowie and the Eagles and decide if they're going to love the Eagles or hate the Eagles, as everybody has to do at some point in life.
Yeah. Yeah, there is the Eagles are all right. It's either I like the Eagles or I hate the Eagles.
Yeah, it's
I fucking hate the Eagles.
It's the Eagles.
Now this is an Eagles. I touched on going to see Rick Springfield last week when we talked on the podcast. I went and I saw Rick Springfield over the summer. Great fucking show. Got a new album coming out next month. Awesome. But leading up to the show, the Hot Tag podcast with us had gone to the show with me, and the entire, like, the audience is sitting there and they're like piping music in before the show starts, and it was just they just had Eagles' greatest hits on like a fucking constant loop. So I heard like Peaceful Easy Feeling like 8 times, and I was really ready to stab somebody because I was like, I can't do it. And Tom was cackling like an idiot because he knows like this is going to be like, yes, Tom, yes, it is.
You know,
like
I feel
that
like
and fucking Justin Bieber in a loop.
I feel like I know the Art Center in New Jersey, they'll play a lot of Eagles at concerts, and it doesn't matter who the concert is, but that's one of their like go-to things. You know, I guess they have crossover appeal from that classic rock and country thing, but it's they're well enough known that everybody that like listens to music knows Eagles music.
Yeah.
But it is funny that that people they're one of those bands that people just have that strong opinion on, whether there's no like, no, I don't really care one way or another. It's I fucking hate the Eagles, or everybody there's 2 types of people. There's people that hate the Eagles, and there's people that have the Eagles' greatest hits, and like nobody has Eagles albums.
Yeah, sure everybody has the greatest hits.
But at some point, people just started getting the Eagles' greatest hits. Because I've only ever owned 2 Eagles albums my whole life. I owned that Eagles' greatest hits that came out in CD in the 80s. That was out on tape.
And Hell Freezes Over?
No, and the double Eagles' greatest hits album that came out in the like late 90s. And I think the only reason I bought it was one of those like online when the when you were able to buy CDs for a penny. When Columbia House was going out of business, they were having like clearance sale stuff, or even before they were going out of business. But they used to have this clearance sale stuff, so I would buy dozens of CDs at a time, and I think that's how I wound up with a double Eagles greatest hits album.
Probably. Now I will say this.
Okay.
I will say this, that my dislike of the Eagles does not reach my fucking hatred of Kiss. I will give them that.
Okay, but that's your
that's, just saying.
Well, if there were 2 70s bands that people
will hate, it's the Eagles and Kiss.
Yeah, that's everybody's gonna miss Alan Rickman, and people are gonna argue about Glenn Frey and the Eagles until the end of time.
Yes.
And speaking of arguments and disagreements, they announced the Oscar nominations.
They did. They announced the Oscar nominations this week. I don't know. There were some surprise omissions, I guess.
There were a few things that people kind of said. This is, when you saw it coming out, you're like, oh, he'll get nominated for an Oscar like that. Things like Johnny Depp and Black Mask. Things like Creed. I'm going to forget the actor's name in Creed.
Anthony Michael Hall. Michael
Jordan. Yes.
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan, who didn't get, a couple people didn't get nominated. And then, the Oscars always wants to be very, they feel their movies have to have, or especially lately, there's a trend that the movies have to be poignant and meaningful and have some strong reality-based message. But and again, for us and who we're coming from, this is going to sound jaded and one side opinionated. But for a movie to get 93% positive reviews to become the highest grossing movie of all time.
Domestically, at least.
Yeah. And then not nominate it for Best Picture when you can nominate things in a field of fucking 10.
Yeah.
It only nominated 8. You know, to leave Star Wars out was really it was the prequels paying. The Star Wars Force Awakens paid for the prequels and the world's hatred of those movies.
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll agree with that.
I'll even say this:
it did get some nominations, just not one of the ones it should have.
I'll say I don't even think it should win. I love the movie,
win, but it should at least get recognized that as such.
Being a giant fan of it, just give it the nomination, give it that that little bit of love, just because it made a lot of money.
And not only that, but you've given I get that the Academy kind of looks down on that type of movie and whatnot, but you have a movie on this list that kind of falls into that category, and I completely lost my fucking train of thought. Yeah, it's
up there, and Mad Max is
Mad Max is up there.
It's an action, it's a science fiction, but it's also that different type of story. Mad Max.
Yeah, but I know
dystopian future that.
I know what I was going to say. I know what I was going to say. Where it's like the Academy has nominated stuff that in the past that hasn't necessarily been something that the Academy would normally nominate, because it was, it did well or whatever. So that's kind of, them thumbing their nose at Star Wars in general. I think what I'm trying to say isn't coming out right, but I think at least Mike, I think, knows what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there is a ton of snobbery that goes on with the Oscars, and there's a lot of movies that people like, and the rewatchability of Best Picture winners is very limited for the most part.
Yeah,
there's not too many. I meant to bring that list up because this is a thought that before we get into that, I'm gonna start bringing it up while we're talking. I'm gonna bring up the list while I'm talking. But the other movies that are nominated, you have the nomination list in front of you, right?
Yeah.
I watched. The only one I actually watched was the Martian.
I've seen which is on my list. Which is on my list to see. I just haven't had a chance to see it yet.
I really enjoyed it. It was a lot better than I expected. I thought it looked good, and I thought it was going to be good, and it exceeded my expectations. It was funny. It was riveting. It was science-y. It had a great cast. It might have been Matt Damon's best work.
Nice.
It was a little bit of it was a little bit of everything. Everybody was great in it. When I'm watching it, and I'm seeing all the people in the cast, I was like, wow, oh wow, oh yeah, wow, this guy's in it too. Sean Bean is in it. He's one of the ground control guys. And I'm like, I'm very confused that if Sean Bean's a ground control guy and he's not in space and he's not on Mars, how's he going to get killed in this movie?
How's he going to die? Exactly.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense. But they figure out a way to kill him anyway, and it Oh no, I'm just kidding. All right, going backwards. Do I want to get in this, or do we want to? Well, all right, I have the rest of the nominations here. Let's talk about the stuff because I've seen the trailers at least for everything.
Okay.
The ones that the movies that I was a little bit more aware of were Bridge of Spies, the Spielberg Tom Hanks about the U-2 spy plane pilot.
Yeah.
And getting that guy back out. And that movie from the get-go, I'm like, that looks like something I'd like to see. And it kind of has Oscar bait written on it. It's a Steven Spielberg war movie with Tom Hanks in it.
Yeah.
It has 3 of those things that get nominated for Oscars: Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, and a war drama. And it's Cold War, and it's it's a true story. So that makes it, that's another thing that adds to that world. So that's, I mean, even without seeing that, I feel like that's a front runner to win a lot of stuff, including Best Picture.
Yeah.
Right now, I have to go with my pick would be The Martian, only because that's the only one I've seen.
Fair enough.
And last year I did make it through. I saw all of the, I got some screener copies and saw some in the theaters and stuff, and had was able to kind of rank everything going into the Oscars, and I had a nice rounded opinion on everything, and I thoroughly enjoyed every movie last year. So I'm looking forward to trying to do the same thing this year. I've gotten a couple other copies of things. I have Mad Max. I haven't watched that yet. I have The Revenant, which I've heard a ton of good things about from people who've seen. I heard it's very dark. I heard it's very deep.
Yeah, it looked very dark. It definitely is on my list of something to go see. I may actually try to get out and see it one of these upcoming weekends. Probably not this weekend because we're supposed to get like 2 feet of snow, but but yeah, it's definitely on my list of things to see.
Mad Max, I mean, everybody's been talking about that, and that was the one that was that action sequel 25 years later that everybody was like, oh, holy shit, this movie came out and it was really good. So I'm happy to, and you could tell when you saw it on the list, you're like, all right, that's not going to get nominated, but at least it's not going to win, but at least it got nominated. That type of, if you would have told me 15 years ago that a new Mad Max movie was going to come out and get nominated for Best Picture, I would have never believed you.
Yeah, I would have thought they were insane.
Yeah. The other one that I had seen a trailer for and got some interest, and it had that Oscar type of vibe for it. And you can tell from the trailers for some movie that they're like fishing for an Oscar when they go for it. Yeah. And Brooklyn was that movie. That is a period piece. It's 1930s. Immigrant comes from Ireland, moves to Brooklyn, meets a guy, falls in love. Her father, I think it is, dies. She has to go back to Ireland for the funeral. She meets another guy that could provide for her, and then she could stay with her mother, and her mother could be cared for. And she's now has to decide which life she wants to go back to. It looks it's an artsy chick flick is probably the most insulting way to describe it. But and being of the descendant of Irish immigrants, I'm always interested in those stories. I just kind of feel like with watching it, this is a movie our grandmother would have liked. With seeing the trailer,
Absolutely.
I'm like, this would have been right up her alley, and that in that type of stuff.
So maybe we'll have to go see it, for that reason.
Yeah, and then go out and have some beers and whiskeys.
Absolutely.
And then the rest of the movies, there isn't much happy stuff. The ones I wasn't as familiar with, The Big Short, Brad Pitt produced it. He's in it with Christian Bale and I'm not going to remember everybody else. It's a nice, strong cast in it, but it's about the banks and the housing crash and the bum loans. Steve Carell was one of the other big names that was in it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about that, and the banks shorting the people on the loans and betting against people and crashing the housing market. So that's it's not happy fare, but it looks, it looks interesting, and it's telling that story, and it's it helped get that story out there. So maybe shit like that won't happen again. Where'd the rest of my list go? All right, and Spotlight is about a journalists investigating the Catholic Church and the child abuse.
Okay, yeah. Now I remember seeing the trailers for that,
Yeah, and the cover up of it. It's got Michael Keaton in it. It's got Mark Ruffalo in it. Yeah. It's got Liev Schreiber in it. I'm not gonna other people that I recognize, but they they're talking about not only was it a church cover up, but there were lawyers that were going and making a mint off of the tragedy of what happened. So there were kind of two scandalous stories that these journalists were investigating. And again, from the trailer, looks really looks like a solid film. Well, of course, because it's nominated for Best Picture. I'm putting my own stamp on it, like that makes a difference. And then the one I had seen, we talked about it when we kind of did our year in review, that it had gotten great reviews, and I didn't know anything about it. And from the movie poster, I couldn't tell anything about it. I'm just like, it's like a woman and a kid. And I'm like, I guess it's about some single mother taking care of her kid. I couldn't have been more wrong.
Okay.
Apparently, The Room is about a woman who at some point was abducted, forced to live in a shed her whole life. Was one of those like abducted sex slaves, like that guy in Ohio that kidnapped all those women and kept them in his house. She had a child. The kid spent 5 years of his life trapped in this one room, and then they escape.
Okay.
And then the rest of the movie is that kid now living in this completely different world that isn't the four walls of that room.
Okay. That could be interesting.
I mean, it's some dark shit.
Yeah, it's definitely dark.
But again, from the trailer, I'm like, I gotta check that out now. It looks good. There wasn't anything really in this year's Best Pictures that I was like, I don't want to watch that. And even that was I kind of had the same opinion with last year. There wasn't really anything in the Best Pictures that I was like, everything here seems interesting and I want to see it. And even last year, I think when with getting into the rewatchability of things, last year's movies I would all watch again because I enjoyed them that much. Some of them are a little hard, would be a little hard. Selma isn't like a happy movie. That's kind of something that you almost would have to like put on and like you want to watch it with like a teenage kid one day and just be like, oh, that's a good movie. And there's some shit in here. You should just know that this happened at a point when like, your grandparents were alive.
Yeah.
This isn't ancient history. This is shockingly weird recent history. Or not weird, but that this would still happen. But going into what I said about the Best Picture winners and the lack of rewatchability, Birdman that I loved, that's such an intense movie. If I wouldn't watch it. If it was on, I might watch a little bit of it, but I wouldn't sit here and be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Bert?" I wouldn't grab you and be like, "Let's watch the last half of Birdman." It's it's deep. I would definitely watch that again, but I couldn't see watching it dozens of times. 12 Years a Slave, which is 2013, I didn't see, but again, not a happy, upbeat type of film. Argo is the same thing. Really good movie, liked it a lot, but it was once you kind of see it, it's those true story films. Once you kind of see it, you know it, and it just kind of tells you, it's there and it's laid out, I guess.
Yeah.
The Artist, I didn't say. I've had a copy of The Artist for 5 years now, and I still haven't watched it. The King's Speech, I have not seen, so I can't comment on that. The Hurt Locker I saw, and I don't know if I would watch The Hurt Locker. Maybe in a couple of years I'd say I'd watch The Hurt Locker again, but I'd have no desire to be like, with it, because it's an intent and it's real and it's close to home. We're still being with that Iraq War stuff that that's still kind of going on. Slumdog Millionaire is another one. I like Slumdog Millionaire, but the story that it tells isn't necessarily, I guess it has a happy ending, but you go through a lot of shit. Literally in Slumdog Millionaire, you go through a lot of shit at one point. But No Country for Old Men, that No Country for Old Men kind of bordered on being an artsy action movie.
Yeah.
It kind of has a gunfight. It kind of has some things. No Country for Old Men was a modern Western. I like that. And that was, that's the Coen brothers. And I enjoy Coen brothers movies. And I think a lot of their films have rewatchability.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm almost proving myself wrong here, because now The Departed is another one. I'd watch The Departed again, but that's Scorsese. So maybe it's the director, or the style of film that leads one way or another. But then you get into something like 2005 was Crash. I wouldn't, I wouldn't desire to sit and watch Crash again. $1 Million Baby. It's a great movie. I just only seen $1 Million Baby recently within the past year. Not a happy movie.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm probably in the same boat where I've known about it, but it wasn't something I kind of went out of. But I definitely not.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip back a little bit more, because as I'm going through, I'm like, there's a lot of movies at least in the 2000s that I would watch again. American Beauty, Best Picture winner, 1999. I hated that movie.
Yeah,
I just kind of felt like it got so much hype, and I felt like it was just. It wanted to be this art house movie, and it was very formulaic in following what those types of independent, thought-provoking movies would do, but it was that big budget version of it. The English Patient is another film that I've had a copy of for years, that I've heard it's shot beautifully, but it's slow as paint drying. It is just...
Yes.
Schindler's List is not a popcorn movie that you'd sit and watch a bunch of times. Dances with Wolves is an investment if you're going to sit and watch Dances with Wolves.
I'm gonna put this out there. I'm not a huge Dances with Wolves fan.
A movie that I
don't hate it, but don't really love it either.
Well, it's like 3.5 hours long. There's a lot in there. It's.
I didn't watch a half-hour movie, but that movie just did nothing for me.
Out of Africa from 1985. I bought a copy of that when I first got on my I want to see every Oscar winner kick, and I was buying these movies. I watched Out of Africa, and I'm like, oh my God, this is nothing's happening.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is awful.
I cannot have seen it.
I wouldn't recommend. One Best Picture, and I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, the stuff that was nominated that year was Out of Africa, The Color Purple, Kiss of the Spider Woman, Prizzi's Honor, and Witness. I saw Color Purple. I liked Color Purple better than Out of Africa, and I saw Witness, and Witness was
I've seen Witness.
Kiss of the Spider Woman and Prizzi's Honor. I'm not that familiar with. Terms of Endearment won in '83. I don't know if I'd sit and watch that ever again. Gandhi's another one that I have and haven't watched because it's 4 hours a movie. Chariots of Fire. These aren't movies that you're gonna pop on and watch with people.
Yeah, it's not something that you're just like, hey, let's have everybody come over and watch Chariots of Fire. That's not really. I might, if I catch it on TV, I'll probably leave Chariots of Fire on at some point, but I don't know if it'd be something that I would go out of my way to watch. Now, not quite my wheelhouse.
Going back, and this was the 1977. The Best Picture nominees were The Turning Point, Julia, The Goodbye Girl, Annie Hall, and Star Wars. I've seen Annie Hall, I've seen Star Wars, and I couldn't tell you a thing about those other 3 movies to save my life.
Fair enough.
So, I'll be willing to say I was a relatively weak year for the Oscars, but I still feel that Star Wars should have beat Annie Hall. And I think now
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
When people look back at it, and it probably depends on when you asked this question. If you asked this question prequels, before everybody started hating George Lucas and discrediting his previous work, people would have said, yeah, maybe maybe Star Wars was a better movie than Annie Hall. Because at that point, everybody was pissed at Woody Allen. Everybody's pissed at Woody Harrelson too, I'm sure. But
well, they are, yeah.
Something about being, high, smoking Pat.
Nothing wrong with that.
But that's one of the, when people say, they're like, well, Annie Hall really was a good movie. I'm like, yeah, but when I was a kid, I don't remember anybody having an Annie Hall lunchbox. Yeah, the Oscars, you can flip through. There's goddamn 78 years of these things, but it's the Best Picture thing. It's a lot of good stuff gets nominated, a lot of stuff that you might not ever, and then stuff that comes in under everybody's radar that you would never see unless it was nominated. You would hear nothing about it. So maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I feel too the Oscars always shortchange comedic parts, comedic films, actors in a comedic role. When was the last time somebody got an Oscar for playing something funny? When was the last time somebody even got nominated for it? You think the last comedy to win an Oscar? Annie Hall was a comedy, but you'd especially lately, it's been a lot of biopics and a lot of people portraying somebody in real life. In the lead actor role, there's two people in a biopic role, but no comedies. It's Martian, Trumbo, The Revenant, Steve Jobs, and The Danish Girl. I don't even know what the Danish Girl is. Oh, that's another
Danish
one.
Girl. I saw trailers for. It was definitely kind of. I don't want to say artsy because it's probably the wrong term. But it was about a guy that cross dresses as a woman, as far as I could tell.
Okay, that's what the picture that they have of this guy looks like. I honestly thought it was a woman from the picture here. Okay, so it's a. I mean, from the picture, he did a pretty good job. I thought it was a woman. What do you think about? I mean, I don't know if did you see Creed?
I haven't seen Creed yet. I unfortunately my movie watching. I've been to the movies 3 times in the past month, and they were all to see the same movie.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. But Sylvester Stallone got nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
And I've heard really, really good things.
And a lot of times what the Oscars do, at least what it seems what they do, is when somebody's in like one of their like last hurrahs, they give them that shot. They nominate them and that, either, all right, we're going to nominate him or we're not going to let him win. So at least he gets that nominated role. Or if you didn't think he was necessarily that good, they give it to the guy because it's probably the last time he's ever going to get a chance. Yeah. So it was nice of them to do this for Stallone. And I'm sure, I'm sure he deserved it.
Yeah. As I said, I've heard nothing but good things about Creed, so.
But I guess, the criticism of the lack of black actors, because Michael B. Jordan not nominated, Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah, not being nominated surprised me.
Yeah, with I guess if they really wanted to round out that Best Picture thing to 10, they could have went Star Wars and they could have went Straight Outta Compton.
And even if Star Wars wouldn't win, I don't think Straight Outta Compton would win, but they should have at least been in the discussion. And and that's just kind of, in a way, I think that's the Academy being a little out of touch too.
Yeah, I mean, it might be, and part of it's that, and part of it is, for some of the stories that you're telling, and these movies that are winning, you're not, some of them are true stories. So you're casting the actors according to, to type of, if they're playing a white guy, you got to cast a white actor.
Yeah.
Type of thing. You never understand it, but I don't think that somebody should necessarily get a nomination just for being the best black picture. Where I almost feel last year, Selma got nominated, and I felt Interstellar was a better movie, and Interstellar did not get nominated. And with Selma, I almost felt like we made this decision this way to put this movie up because this movie has an important message to it for what it is. But it's in the history of the Oscars, 78 years or 80 something years, there hasn't been a ton of black actors to win Oscars. Half of them, I think, have won in the past 10 years or, 10, 15 years, with Denzel winning Best Actor and Halle Berry winning and Jamie Foxx and, a couple of people that have won. that's all happened recently. Cuba Gooding Jr. You know, there was a point, you know, up until our lifetime where it was like Hattie McDaniel, Sidney Poitier, and I forget, there was like a third. There was one other like black actor that had won, and they were at like the 70, you know, the 65th Oscars or whatever. You know, I just caught a clip of it of Eddie Murphy was up presenting, and he brought it up on stage. He's just like, you know, I know I'm not supposed to talk about stuff like this, but so that's been an issue for a long time with the Oscars. Maybe next year, Black Panther will get nominated for Best Picture.
It might. It might.
I don't
not though.
They're not nominating the superhero movie. It could be the best goddamn movie.
They ain't nominating no damn superhero movie.
But if they don't nominate Black Panther next year or whenever it comes out, we can say it's because they're racist.
I think it's 2 years from now, but yeah, they can say that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, there's Star Wars. You know, we're bitching about Star Wars not getting Best Picture nominated. It got nominated for a lot of the technical awards.
Soundtrack as well. So you know, I can see it. You know, I can see it possibly winning for something in there, but being left out of Best Picture kind of sucks.
Yeah, I'm just kind of flipping through all the nominations to see if there's anything that really stands out. Short animated film, which I wound up seeing all of them for the first time. I saw, and for the first time ever, I saw ones that weren't just the Pixar ones that they put in front of their main feature.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised with that the Pixar or the Disney one nominated, the one that was in front of Lava. I'm kind of surprised that wasn't nominated.
I didn't see it.
It was. I mean, it was your standard. I mean, it wasn't Paperman.
But it was pretty good. You know, they do a good job because it's Pixar.
It was, you know, yeah. So that's kind of why I'm a little surprised, that it wasn't nominated.
What I did last year was Amazon had a for whatever it was $6 or $8. I could download all the short film nominated and even some that were just considered for nominations and weren't. So I got to see all of them last year. And you get to see some interesting different types of animation and stories that are very different than what you would in animation. It reminded me of some of those things. Remember when cable first really came into prominence and they would put a lot of different unusual things on to flesh out channels, and you used to see these little short pieces and unusual animations and things that were darker, things that were serious, or things that were. That's the with being able to sit and watch all those Best Picture short film nominations, short animated film nominations last year. It reminded me of that, of early HBO where they would put in these little things and some of the other channels that would just kind of put people's stuff up there that you would never really get an opportunity to see anywhere else.
Sure.
And that's one of the good things about all these streaming sites and all these download sites now, that you can find these things. If you can't find it on YouTube, you can find it someplace. And if you do got to pay for it, you're not paying an arm and a leg for it. So it's not that bad. I'm still flipping through, see if anything else catches my eye. It's like, oh, hey, that's something I'm surprised got nominated for something, but nothing's there. You know, actually, one of the things that surprised me was I thought Cinderella was nominated for stuff last year. The Disney live action Cinderella.
What was it? This past summer?
I guess it had to be this past year. I think it came out right after last year's Oscars. So I think it just missed the window for and I guess it came out in the spring. But when I saw that got nominated, I'm like, I could have sworn that got nominated the year before. Yeah, there's nothing else really here that I'd be like, oh, it's a surprise, or it's tough. There's the few that we talked about with Straight Outta Compton and Black Mass and Star Wars and Creed missing some nomination, getting snubbed on some nominations. I'm sure there's a couple other things because everybody always kind of does that. All right, this is my big art picture this year. This is my shot at an Oscar, and there's always a lot of swings and misses. Remember when Jim Carrey did that for a long time? He was on that big kick of, I want to get nominated for an Oscar, and he kept making these deep, thought-provoking films that everybody that nobody nominated him for, and the people that just wanted to see him do stupid stuff just wish he'd go back to doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how we wound up with a crappy Dumb and Dumber sequel.
We needed the Dumb and Dumber sequel like we needed the Dumb and Dumber prequel.
Well, now we have the complete Dumb and Dumber trilogy, so you can go out and buy that and have movies that you'll never watch.
No thanks.
So I think my plan now is I'll finish watching the rest of my copies of things. I can come back. I'll give you my Oscar prediction, which will be more than just The Martian, because that's the only thing I saw. If I had a vote, I would write in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I don't have a vote because I'm not a part of the...
Maybe someday we'll have a vote.
When we're a part of the movie science picture... Motion Picture Arts and Science Academy. That's the whole thing, I think. That's what they say. One day.
Something. Yeah.
I'll get a vote. And then people will be like, who the fuck wanted to nominate this piece of shit? And I'll be like,
it was a Mike Ziggadick.
This asshole keeps nominating.
Why is he writing in The Force Awakens? It's 22 years later.
I was thinking about it, and I'm like, maybe if all three of these new Star Wars trilogies are really good, maybe they'll do like Lord of the Rings and give it to the last one.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I don't think so.
Not.
Well, I guess we're kind of petering out. I didn't have, it's tough to talk too deeply about the movies when you haven't fucking seen them. But I think we were talking more about the process and how confusing it is with why does this get nominated over this? Why is this nominated over that? And with the, I just don't, at this point, I don't think there's any good answer to who makes these decisions. It's maybe they need to the Academy might need to get a little more diverse. Maybe they need to get a little younger. Apparently, I think I heard a statistic that 60% of them or 70% of them are just white males over 60 years old.
And that kind of shows.
Yeah. On the lighter side of film, or films that we've been talking about. Did you see Adam Driver on Saturday Night Live?
I started to watch it, I guess yesterday, and I was about to run out the door, so I didn't get to finish watching it. But from what I saw him doing the under killer base, I caught like the first half of that. That was hysterical.
Yeah, that one's.
I keep seeing people posting something he did about a that yet.
Something he did about what? You broke up for a minute.
Something. Are you losing me?
Yeah, you're like both times. You're like something he did, and then it broke up.
Oh, well, that sucks. I'll fix that. He did something. Did something about Aladdin, which I missed.
That's the third time. I'm guessing you said Aladdin.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. It was funny. It literally crapped out all three times.
All three times. Fantastic.
At the same part.
Fan-fucking-tastic.
At the same part, you're like something he did about.
Great.
Yeah, I saw the Aladdin skit. It was funny. It could have been 30 seconds shorter. You know, one of those. Yeah. It was the kind of the reality of a magic carpet ride type of thing. It had a couple good jokes in it, and the Star Killer Base undercover boss bit was good. That one's all over YouTube, and it's been all over Facebook. And I caught a little bit of something else. We were watching it without the sound off because I was at a wedding over the weekend, so I watched a lot of TV without the sound. When we were doing post-wedding reception stuff, we were down in a bar, and Saturday Night Live was on. I caught some of that. I watched the end of a Packers game that must have made people throw up, and including our friend author Chris Jensen, who is a big Packers fan.
I was going to say Jensen could not have been happy.
No, he was at the wedding with me, and he left the reception. I'm like, hey, you coming down to the bar? And he goes, I want to go back. I want to get changed. I want to watch the end of the game. And let me see. Maybe I'll come back out. And when the Packers tied it up with 0 seconds left, he texted me, and I'm like, he'll be back out in a minute once they, because I'm like, they got the momentum. They're going to win now. And then they fucking lost in a heartbreaker. I'm like, yeah, well, he's just going to go to bed angry now. But this, I know we're completely shifting gears here real quick, and this is something we didn't even discuss. I thought about it earlier that this is something to talk about, but playoff football this year has been phenomenal, at least, especially at the end. You don't know what's going to fucking happen. Yeah, it's got these WWF endings to it now, with the Vikings missing that field goal last week, and the late hit with the Pittsburgh Cincinnati thing.
Yeah.
And these games having these last second, changes, and then some trouncings. Carolina beat the Seahawks so bad it should be considered a hate crime.
Yeah.
Somebody had put together the Jim Ross, oh my God, segment for the Panthers Seahawks game. But it's been fun playoff football, and it's been enjoyable for me just because I've been busy on the weekends. So I keep kind of catching the games or the end of the games in like a bar full of people. And it's fun. It's a good game like that. You get such a great reaction out of a room full of people when it has a fun ending, like some of these games have had this year. So I'm looking, now that I don't have a dog in the hunt for the playoffs, I get to enjoy it no matter what happens. Where I can be
that's kind of where I'm at, because I think I was out kind of by like week 9, so it was, you at least had a dog in the hunt until the last week, but my team was in there, but it was going to take a miracle to get there, and even once they got in, they weren't going to do much. So I honestly haven't been paying that much attention to playoff football. I was kind of rooting for KC because it was somebody different.
Yeah.
It was funny talking playoff football. I was one of the at my real job. I was talking to one of my cousins who lives in Denver. And you must not really want to talk to me today. And I kind of was like, because my goes John. But this year, so we talked a little bit of football. But my dog was kind of in kind of rooting for Kate. Yeah, we've got Broncos, Pats. I gotta root Broncos, but just because I hate the Pats.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are doing that. And I did see something like 12 out of the last 13 Super Bowls have featured either Tom Brady, Brendan Roethlisberger, or Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I'm kind of done. Both of them.
Yeah, it's but the other thing that's happening this year is the way the playoffs have been going, it's kind of anything could happen. So, again, on the AFC, we're more than likely going to get either Manning, Brady, or Roethlisberger. So, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Kind of rooting for Peyton though, because I just can't deal with Brady. I hate Brady so much, so fucking much.
Well, he's got all that. He's that perfect hateable kind of character that he wins a lot. He finds ways to win when you don't think he should. He's gotten caught cheating a few times.
Cheats to win. Yeah.
He's got a German model wife.
Yeah.
That is like snotty to the public. He is like a comedy villain.
He really is. And he even married kind of like out of his, in a way, like out of his league. I mean, not that,
Yeah, but if you feel like he should be in like a movie like giving Adam Sandler a hard time or something like that.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning has always kind of had that like, oh shucks, everybody likes me and I'm really good at football type of thing. Now he's getting to be the old man.
Yeah, I'm in that matchup. I got to go Peyton because I'm just so sick of fucking Tom Brady.
Yeah,
so sick of Tom Brady. But I guess we'll see. That's why they play the game.
So I guess we can wrap things up, and now everybody knows about our hatred of the Eagles, Tom Brady, and the Oscars snubbing of Star Wars again.
And and even in that, I hate the Eagles in two different ways. I hate the fucking band, and I hate the fucking football team. So they wrap it up. You can wrap it up that way.
What about the birds? Ain't got no opinion on Eagles, the actual animal.
I kind of like the eagle. I kind of like the animal.
Okay.
I like the bird, but man, or the football. But I hate the football. But we'll wrap up. So this you can find us on any podcast app. On WordPress.com, Facebook.com/Channel Z Podcasts. We should probably hot tag coming out in about 2 weeks now. And also want to give us any ideas for something to talk about, you want to hear us talk about, you want to complain, whatever, shoot us an email at channelzpodcast@gmail.com. So anyway, I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.